What is something you used to think people were over-exaggerating about until you experienced it yourself? How fast time feels like it goes. Every year feels like it's going faster. The other week my 10-year-old nephew said, "Wow, I haven't heard this song in forever." The little dude was referring to 9 months lol. I mean that's 7.5% of his whole life. My dad once told me something along these lines and it hit home. When you're 10 years old, 1 year is 10% of your life. When you're 50 years old, 1 year is 2%, so it relatively quicker/less significant. Migraines. For a long time, I had very minor migraines. 2 years ago during peak pandemic, I was working from home in an industry that was being heavily overworked and we were desperately understaffed. One day working tough my lunch at home with a creeping headache, I realized my vision was getting weird. It was like someone was taking bite chunks out of the vision in my left eye. Suddenly the pain in my head cranked to an insane level and I could only see little blips of light out of my left eye. I knew immediately it was a migraine, but I had never experienced one that bad. Messaged my manager that I needed to clock out and please try to understand that I was sorry, but I literally just stressed half of my vision out of existence. Pure agony. Splitting head, nausea, ringing ears, light hurts, sound hurts, moving brings pain, dizziness, muscles cramp, even my teeth hurt, until I finally fall asleep from exhaustion. But then, 45 minutes later when I wake up, a euphoria that is unmatched by anything I've ever experienced. Edit, based on the comments I've gotten on this, I'm starting to think there are 2 types of migraines, probably more, but can be grouped into 2 categories. 1 migraine lasts for a few hours, you take a nap, then feel great. 2 migraine lasts for a day plus then you feel like shit for a week. Are these 2 different things maybe? Anyone know? Edit 2, I've gotten over 100 comments on this, and I do plan to read them all, eventually, so keep them coming. Some of these are incredibly descriptive and worth the read. Mostly I feel for all of you, this shit stinks. Take care of yourselves. Based on what I'm reading there are treatments for some of these, so I'm gonna suggest that you go see a doctor. Maybe you can get some relief. You might not need to just deal with it yourself. A proper toothache. Tooth abscess. Never seen my husband cry till those 3 days when we couldn't access doctor for pain relief/antibiotics etc. My dentist referred me to a root canal doctor who said 1 week I cried. Worst acute pain of my life. Only time I ever went to a class high. The only time my mom stepped in and made me an appointment as an adult. Get your wisdom teeth removed before they become impacted. Back pain. Oh yeah, let's lie on the floor at Walgreens for a little bit and wait until it stops. I never knew why my dad always chose to lie on the floor after coming home from work until I hit my early mid-20s. It sucks so bad. Edit, I appreciate the advice. I've been to the doctors a few times already in the past few years to check out my back. I regularly work out after my office job and maintain a healthy diet. Also, it's not just back pain, my legs have a spasm when I sleep on my back or side. My RMT noticed the fucked upness of it and gave me exercises to strengthen my back and core too. In the end it's just me being lazy to apply myself. I guess I'll have to go see another doctor and figure it out for good. You really can't understand back pain until you experience it. There is no powering through true back pain, your body stops working and you collapse. Hot flashes. I didn't think they were this bad. I'm a 31-year-old man who took Wellbutrin for the past month and hot flashes are a side effect. I thought you just thought you were hot. No motherfucker you are. You're super hot legitimately, and you have to do something about it or you'll go insane. It's not in your head. It's your brain raising your temps until you can't focus on anything else. This 56-year-old woman says yes. 45-year-old woman here who has had hot flashes since I was 39. Yay, early menopause. Lol, no, it sucks. My hot flashes have been so bad that my glasses have fogged up. I have gotten nauseous from my hot flashes. I have soaked through my pajamas and sheets. I have literally slept on those big freezy things with the blue liquid inside that people put in ice chests instead of ice. I have stood in a freezing cold shower wishing the water was colder. I have been in the middle of professional meetings and had sweat start running down my face. Hot flashes are no joke. How much a kidney stone hurts. Most people expect it to hurt the most when passing a stone through the urethra. Nothing prepared me for the pain as it passed through my kidney/ureter. 1 second I would be fine, carrying on conversations, prancing around nimbly-bimbly. The next second I would be keeled over, crying in agony, losing my lunch due to the sudden onset of crippling pain. 0-10, would not recommend. Yeah, the pain wasn't in passing it. I felt like someone beat me across my back with a baseball bat and kicked me in my nuts with a steel toe boot. It was fucking insane. I had COVID and kidney stones at the same time. I thought I was dying. I ended up passing 3 of those little fuckers. Chronic illness, there is absolutely no way you can truly understand the impact unless you experience it. A healthy person wants 100 things, a sick person wants just one. Just that idea of always being sick and you will never not be sick again. And you're expected to participate in society just the same as everyone else. It's deeply fucked up. And no one believes you. It's been years, get over it. I battled cancer for 4 years and yes, it's in remission now, but my body is trashed and done for. No immune system, multiple surgery taking chunks out of my body, experimental treatments with no real data on long-term side effects. Every single time I catch a cold I either get pneumonia, or I'm laid out for weeks, constantly in pain, constantly sick. But no cancer, so I guess I want and need to quit being a baby apparently. It's amazing how once you're in remission you just get dropped by everyone now that you're not going to die. I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? The physical pain of getting older. Damn. On my 35th birthday my wife woke me up with a cupcake and a candle, sang me happy birthday and then congratulated me on being 15 from 50. That really hit me hard. The other day I turned 45 and she said 5 from 50 and that hit me so hard. I just wanted to stay in bed all day. I still feel like an irresponsible teen but I'm pushing 50. Insane. The emotional pain too. I get so nostalgic and teary over the past and how much has changed. It's a weird grieving process over losing your youth and the way things were. I get anxiety about being older now. Mostly it's because I missed out a lot when I was in my teens due to family and life circumstances and I know I will never get to be back there, to experience it. I can't be 19 ever again and it physically hurts me. My heart aches for the times I missed out on. Everyone says, oh, you can still experience those things later in life. But I'll never be 18 and sneaking out to see a boy or going for my first drive alone to pick up my best friend to just go hang out. Because that was exciting if you just got a car. Or prom, high school crushes, freedom to figure some things out. I didn't get any of it and now I'm so anxious because I can never have those years back. It really hurts my heart, honestly. Waterboarding. We were drunk and figured, it's just water. Hold your breath and you'll be fine. Then I volunteered to test it out and it was the absolute worst. Waterboarding in Guantanamo Bay sounds rad as fuck if you don't know what either of them are. Went wakeboarding a few summers ago and kept forgetting what it was called, and when I saw my dad later that day I told him we were waterboarding at the lake. I thought the same of pepper spray. Same situation, drunk and thinking, oh, it's just like cutting unions. Yeah, no, I was gasping for air, coughing for 15 minutes and my eyes hurt for 2 days. 0-10, do not recommend. How great homegrown fruits and vegetables are. I figured that was just gardener talk justifying their time-consuming hobby. Then I bought a house where the previous owner had a vegetable garden and orchard. That spring I saw these things coming up out of the ground and thought, is that asparagus? Cut them and cooked them and they were incredible then. The plums ripened. I never even liked plums but I thought I'd try one, so I pulled it off the tree and bit into it. Well, that's not bad. Pretty juicy. Fresh picked fruit is far juicier than the stuff in stores. So anyway, I ate another plum and then another, and the next thing I know I've been standing there eating plums for like 5 minutes and the juice is literally running down my arms and dripping off my elbows. And those hard and sour strawberries you buy in stores are nothing like soft sweet strawberries slightly warm from the sun that never make it into the house because you just sit in the garden eating them as fast as you pick them. And of course, tomatoes. OMG. Once you start growing your own you will never be able to buy another one in a supermarket. In case you were wondering, a significant chunk of the reason for this is that fruit tends to be picked just before it becomes fully ripe, so that it'll last long enough to make it to the store, especially if it's one that they're going to need to put away so that there are fruits in the middle of the off-season. Another chunk of why they are so much better has to do with what you plant. Some varieties of plants look good and produce more, which is what big farmers plant. Look up heirloom varieties and choose based on taste, etc., not looking good on shelves and lasting longer in storage. There is nothing like freshly picked sweet corn, eaten in the garden. The difference between humid and dry heat. I saw a thread where some furs were trying to argue that dry heat was worse. I'm Australian. Unless you're up north, it's all dry heat, and I'd take dry heat every day of the week over humidity. You can't escape humidity. Yeah, I went to Darwin and around the NT once, in December/January, greater than 35 degrees and greater than 75% humidity on the average day. It was brutal. The air was so heavy I could taste it, and no break from sweating buckets the minute you set foot outside. Oh, and on top of that, there's the bush flies that drive you mad. Went from Phoenix to Houston. The difference is insane. Old people telling when rain was coming based on arthritis symptoms. Edit, there's a few studies that showed no correlation, one older one that showed some correlation, maybe others that cast doubt on the correlation. but it's very hard to prove a negative, and the science seems heavily overshadowed by medical practitioners like radiologists, who say there is a correlation because of barometric pressure. I also found it super interesting that the people who mentioned these studies in the comments were downloaded to oblivion. I wavered back and forth about making this edit, before realizing I value accuracy more than karma. I ripped my kneecap out in a bad bicycle accident in high school. I'm 40 now and can barely walk before a big thunderstorm rolls in. Sorry to annoy, but do you know why this happens? I've never understood the connection between the weather and people's arthritis/injuries, like scientifically how it works. As an MD, this one baffles me, but my Phil's knees are pretty damn accurate in predicting the weather. Tinnitus. It's torture. Every time you think about it, it gets louder. I don't mind it much cause I've had it since I was born. That means I don't know what proper silence is. Me too. They thought I had hearing issues when I was young because I couldn't really hear some of the beeps well because they matched the pitch of the ringing. You know the grief you see in dramatic movies when someone gets horrible news via phone call and just crumples to the floor wailing? Always felt like melodrama to me. Until I got the call that there had been an accident and my dad had died. Edit. Thank you for all your messages and sharing your own stories. I'm going to try to respond to everyone. I'm sorry for your loss. It's really terrible experience. I had the opposite problem when my mother passed from an accident. I thought I would just crumble, but it was just so surreal that my brain couldn't seem to emotionally process it. I remember being in the receiving line and just looking over at her and having this "what the fuck is happening?" sort of bewilderment. Often the people I've cared most about, I've been really surprised at how my grief played out. It's been about 9 months since and I still have a sort of weird sense about it. Like, I haven't called mom in a while, I should do that this weekend. And then remembering, or being surprised that she's not in my list of favorite contacts on my phone. Grief is absolutely bizarre. As I'm sure you know, how you react is no reflection of how much you love them, or how much you miss them. Grief does what it wants, for as long as it wants, and you're along for the ride. My best friend in the entire world died in February. She was admitted to the hospital after having a freak accident that left her unresponsive. Her heart had stopped for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes and the lack of blood flow to her brain stem left her brain dead. After I handled the phone calls the night she was admitted, I lost all semblance of control over my emotions, and frankly, my life. It's fucking isolating and numbing and just. Fuck grief, man. I cannot describe it, there is nothing to compare it to. It's been 4 months since she died and I still cannot function day to day, and it's hard to cope with. Insomnia. After 3 days, you don't even have a sense of self. You become a zombie of exhaustion. When your asshole brain finally gives you a break, you sleep like 4 hours. Enough to flush part of the waste out of the brain matter but not to function in any capacity. I only had this level of insomnia once in my life and it has convinced me of the need to have a machine to help put you under. Fuck that 1,000 times. And hashtag X200B. The human brain is amazing but so fucking stupid at the same time. Like bro, I know we are stressed but if we don't keep working, you are going to be stressed and starving. Gosh, the 3 days with no sleep ones are the worst. Did you get the hallucinations at that point? They tend to show up for me around hour 60 with no sleep. Nothing crazy dramatic. But out of the corner of my eye I'll keep seeing my dog that died a decade ago. He was black, so I think that's part of why I see him, specifically. Then, I'll just start hearing people calling my name fairly quietly at random intervals, which will morph into random quiet violin music in the background of everything, which at its final stage becomes inescapable blaring violin music playing inside my head, which is making it so I can't fall asleep. The vicious cycle. Oh, what I would give to not have insomnia. I go through periods of sleeping more or less normal, and then for seemingly no reason, I'll have weeks on end where a good night of sleep is impossible. I'll get 2 to 4 hours of sleep despite pills, tea, baths, white noise, meditation, everything. I'll spend my days so deeply, utterly exhausted that I can barely think, and my whole body feels heavy, lifeless. It's hard to feel any kind of emotion, let alone happiness or contentedness. Just existing as a human-shaped puddle until the time when I can go to bed and hope to God that tonight will be different for some unknown reason. Insomnia is a real bitch. It will tank your mental health and send you spiraling real fast. Honestly, addiction. When I was in junior high my dad had an injury at work that ultimately resulted in a pretty bad opiate addiction. I didn't understand how someone could prioritize a pill to such an extent or how awful they could be if they didn't have it. And then I grew into a person with crippling anxiety who discovered Xanax. The rest is a decade-long story of how I learned empathy and a lot of other hard lessons. But to have been so naive. Sigh. I have migraines and at one point, a long string of cluster headaches. My doctor gave me infinite codeine. I was sick as shit for 2 weeks with brain exploding. So I was downing those pills like they were water. Chug chug, 2 a day every day, and after the cluster headaches died down I stopped taking them. And then I got really sick. Sick in a way I've never been sick before. Like the worst flu ever, but no sneezing. Just aches, tremors. Felt like I was going to throw up. Headaches, regular kind, like a coffee headache but worse. I couldn't sleep, food made me nauseous, noise was annoying, everything was awful. I felt irritated at everything, everyone, and sick as shit. Then I had one last headache so I took one last pill, and it was exactly like that quarantine episode of It's Always Sunny. Fuck, I felt great. In just a few hours I went from I wish I was dead to life is wonderful and I am the picture of youthful exuberance. That's when I realized what I was experiencing was withdrawal. It was so hard after that, because I realized, I feel like shit, but there's a pill in the drawer 2 meters away that will make me feel 100% healthy, and more, in 20 minutes. Just gulp, and I'm better. I didn't take it because I knew, I could just tell, that was how it would start. I really didn't think addiction was such a big deal before that experience. I just figured it's like not having coffee or something, you know? Something you just have to power through, no big deal. But having had it I totally get why people become addicts. I know because I was like, almost there myself. It sucks and it's totally not your fault. Imagine if you weren't knowledgeable on this subject. You would have instantly been sucked into the downward spiral of addiction without even knowing it, and then suddenly you'd be faced with the same stigma by people who don't understand. This is exactly why we need to get rid of the whole degenerate junkie narrative and change people's mindset when it comes to addiction. It's not just simple mind over matter and discipline that's gonna save people from addiction. That the older you get the faster your life goes by. Don't remind me. I have totally wasted the last decade. Please. Slow down. Break your routine. It's hard to do, but big changes will make things seem to slow down. Seeing stars. Thought it was an exaggeration until I had a very bad coughing fit, and suddenly I'm seeing stars. Perfectly fitting terminology. Edit, thanks for the upvotes, and really cool to see all of your stories. Such a whimsical neurological phenomenon, right? Happened to me when I was running really hard. I looked up and my first thought was, holy shit, they really are stars. I suggest running during the day next time. I get them occasionally after sneezing, or taking a big shit, or as it happened my first time, just stepping down from a curb. Sometimes they're just zipping around randomly, other times they are moving together in an extremely symmetrical pattern. Being suicidal. As a stupid teen it made seem to me in most cases, to consider it as simply an overreaction. Like I'm so pissed off, I'll just kilometers. Like, don't be dramatic, just chill and you'll snap out of it. Think of your family, friends, the good things you have. PSA, do not fucking say those things to a suicidal person. It will almost certainly result in the opposite of the intended effect. In my mid-20s, my mental health took a massive nosedive and I learned that it most certainly is not a case of being dramatic during a case of the blues. It's your brain winning an argument against itself and insisting death is the best choice. No more pain, no more being a burden, selfish not to end it all. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to want to live anymore, if that makes sense. For 2 years I was on suicide watch, my meds monitored, as I tried to remind myself daily that this was my mental illness lying to me and it would be temporary. It's immensely painful, I swear. The mental pain would become so strong you could feel it in your chest and throat, like a very deep bruising after being punched. I've spoken to other people who experienced similar symptoms and thanked God, I thought I was going nuts if I could physically feel mental illness. It was all in all a horrible experience. I'm still pretty mentally ill, but I take care to avoid getting to that stage again. I believe you can't truly understand being suicidal unless you've experienced the feeling, but it's something I hope nobody here ever does, or has to consider. In high school, I got put on an antidepressant that gave me suicidal thoughts for 4 months. I would not wish suicidal thoughts on my worst enemy. It feels wrong to have your own mind screaming at you to end the pain on an existential level. I'm not sure I can adequately describe how it feels. I hope you find mental stability and true happiness. I'm alive because I'm a coward, and honestly I'm okay with that. Every time I tried I'd pussy out at the last second because the existential concept of death terrified me more than the guaranteed pain of continuing to live. Now I'm on drugs and it's better. I still think death would be easier, but my life is better than it was a year ago and that is enough to make me curious about how it will be in a year. I don't have to convince myself every morning that I can endure one more day. My dog saved me. I had everything figured out. I'd been slowly erasing my existence and preparing for disappearing, but the one part I couldn't solve was what to do about my dog. Because I knew she wouldn't understand that I was never coming home. I knew she was the only one I could be sure wouldn't be better off without me. Even people close to me, I could see and recognize that I was being a total asshole, and that I think was part of me trying to push them away so they didn't notice me fading away. So I knew they'd hurt, but I also knew they did recognize me as the toxic person that I was. And I was. I wish I could say I wasn't, but I was. But my dog didn't care. She was _always _pleased to see me come home, and unequivocal about how her favorite thing was quality time with me. And so I kept coming home. I didn't have any hope left, and no thoughts to a better future. I just knew that I couldn't finish the job when my dog needed me. I did get sorted, but I truly hadn't appreciated just how far down the rabbit hole I'd gone. How distorted and dark my world had become. I don't think anyone can until they've been there themselves.